Um, so my senior project is Painting the Way to Success. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, in 1999 to 2000, the school year, 87% of the nation's public elementary schools reported visual arts instruction was available. In 2009 to 2010, the percentage was lessened to 83% availability. And you can see up there, it's like that red part right there. And interestingly enough, secondary schools, there was also a decrease, 87% to 83% in the 2009 to 2010 school year. So in 2009 to 2010, out of the 91,791 public elementary and secondary schools, 14,125.19, sorry for the point, I did it on a calculator, were left without visual arts instruction. So there was quite a decrease there. So when the No Child Left Behind Act was passed in 2002, the federal government started assessing school districts by their student scores on reading and mathematics. This resulted schools to focus more on the subjects that would boost their test scores, like math and reading, this led to budget cuts in art programs, which didn't up the scores, supposedly. According to a Pew Research Center survey, 7 in 10 teens suffer from anxiety and depression and say it's prevalent among their peers. So it is clear that there is a rise in emotional instability among the youth today. A study by the American Psychology Association found that students who are better able to understand and manage their emotions effectively do better at school than their less skilled peers. Interesting, right? Hopefully. So if scores are higher when, if scores are higher when the students are emotionally well, this can only mean scores are decreasing when the students aren't feeling emotionally well. And to clarify, good emotional stability, well-being, health, or intelligence requires producing good feelings, understanding emotions and managing them, as well as having a healthy relationship with God, of course. Christianity. So, interestingly enough, there is evidence that art can actually boost students' emotional well-being. This can only mean that schools are squandering out a key area for students' success by cutting out art programs, which is a big problem, right? This is what I've been researching for my senior project. I've been researching how art benefits the youth's emotions, thus proving that art classes and art programs could possibly boost student scores and should be considered important in schools. So before I go any further, I want to thank my sponsors and mentors. They have helped me for actually a majority of what I will be talking to you about today. A lot of my research stems from what they have shared with me, and they generously took the time to meet with me and answer my many, many questions. So thank you guys. So one of my sponsors, Dan Klassen, he's right over there. Hello. So Dan Klassen is a clinician for St. Mary's Home for Children, as well as the youth pastor for Barrington Baptist Church. Mr. Klassen really pushed my project further by giving me information about how art aids him in helping his clients, and in fact, I'm going to share some information he gave to me later. My other sponsor is Jessica Ekholm. She's an art teacher here at BCA. I'm sure you know her. She gave me a lot of insight on how art affects her students and even herself. She has also helped me conduct service projects in which I helped out her class. I really appreciate her doing this with me, especially since the projects ended up to be really messy. My third sponsor was Mrs. Jenna Tremblay-Reilly. She's right over there. Hello. She is the Performing Arts Chair at Barrington Christian Academy. She works in the CBAT unit, helping children ages 4 to 17, and she has a ton of other jobs, so she's like a superhuman. So Mrs. Tremblay-Reilly really helped me to have a better background for arts therapeutic methods, as well as inspiring the ideas for my service projects. My mentor is Mrs. Sandy Townsend. She is also an art teacher here at BCA, and I'm sure you know her too. She's awesome. Mrs. Townsend has given me insight on some goals of an art educator and why she does what she does. She's also shared with me some facts about God that I can actually use outside of my senior project. The goals of my project were to identify a problem, a subject in relation to the problem, provide a solution, and do it all in a timely manner without dying. So my interview with Mr. Klassen. This isn't a picture he shared with me, but this is like kind of similar to what he does. Just therapeutic methods, kind of like using art to have the children better feel how they feel. I hope that makes sense. One of the stories that he told me and that stood out the most, and I used it for my research paper, was about a young girl who was 4 years old. She unfortunately grew up in an abusive home, and since abuse was all she knew, she would abuse the other child in the home she was currently living in. In one of Mr. Klassen's sessions with her, they were creating art together, and as they were doing it, Mr. Klassen asked what she named the piece, and the piece, when he showed me, was a pink piece of paper, and there was a little blob in the corner, and it seemed to resemble a face. And after he asked what the name of the piece was, she named it Storm. Mr. Klassen met with her another time, and they were still creating art, and she created another piece, and it seemed to resemble herself. It was like a little girl and had these same exact clothes she was wearing, and Dan asked her, Mr. Klassen, sorry about that, asked her what the name of the piece was, and she called the piece Monster. Thankfully, this girl was moved to a different home that would better fit her needs. This girl was 4 years old, probably not even in kindergarten yet, and through her art, she told Mr. Klassen exactly how she felt, even if she didn't even know she felt it herself. This is a strong example of how art is a method for communicating and understanding one's situation, an important factor in emotional stability. So, getting further in my project, I wanted to research some of the emotional benefits caused by art. So, Mrs. Ekholm allowed me to assist in one of her classes, and she was very sweet for doing this. It was very messy. So, what we did was they were swirling shaving cream in a marbleized way, and they would use that to create an art piece. And at the beginning of the class, we gave each of the children a sheet of paper like this, and at the beginning, with a blue crayon, they would circle an emotion they felt, and at the end, with an orange crayon, circle an emotion they felt after. I assumed that at first they would all circle happy or sad or whatever, rough day, I don't know, kids, and at the end, probably circle happy because according to my research, art produces positive emotions, right? And unfortunately, after a really messy class, little PTSD there, oh my goodness, not one of the children circled happy at the end. They either circled sad or angry. I was actually very disappointed in this. I was like, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. But Mr. Klassen really helped me with this because I talked with him after that, and after telling him what happened, he suggested that this was a result of peer pressure. And thinking back through my experience, I remember one child circling angry and saying, I'm going to circle angry. And then the other child said, I'm going to circle angry too. So through art and through help, of course, we found out that art was a means of communication in this instance, that they were being affected by peer pressure. They wouldn't tell me that. They wouldn't tell me how I was affected by peer pressure. So this is like a good mean of communication. Thank you guys all for sticking with me. So Mrs. Tremblay-Reilly helped me to see some of more positive effects of arts, kind of like in the emotional aspect instead of the communication aspect. So while working with clients, Mrs. Tremblay-Reilly uses various techniques to help them overcome the issues they are facing. One In one particular technique, she'll have all the students sit down with butcher paper and just paint and relax, according to their, in rhythm with their breath. While Tremblay-Reilly does choose the colors for them of the paint they'll be using, as this allows them to be like more in a controlled area, so that way they don't stress about choosing colors. Mrs. Tremblay-Reilly says that they do get to decide if they mix the colors. This will give them a sense of control over the situation, as a sense of control is important because that's what keeps you balanced in life. It's what, even if your life is out of control, at least you'll have one aspect of control, and this is a way art can help that. And having the right amount of control is a positive emotion, and therefore a important factor in emotional stability. My time with Mrs. Townsend. As I said earlier, Mrs. Townsend gave me a lot of information on connecting God as well as the goals of an art teacher. Mrs. Townsend has told me a goal of hers when teaching an art class is to create a place of confidence. She herself says art is the first I can children have. When they feel confident in art, they'll begin to feel confident in other subjects too. And it is important for children to feel confidence, right? You know, they need to do well in school. They need to they want to feel like they're good at something, which is so important in emotional stability. Oh, sorry. My research paper, that lovely thing, includes information relating to what my sponsors have said, as well as some information on art improving emotional well-being. Christian Strang, a professor of neuroscience at the University of Alabama Birmingham, and the former president of the American Art Therapy Association herself has said, lines, shapes, and colors translate your emotional experience into something visual. The quote continues, words don't often get what you're trying to say. So this clearly means art helps to identify emotions. She's pretty smart, so if she's saying this, it's true. And Lance Brown, a Christian speed painter, says, God allows to speak, or I apologize. So while he is painting on stage, with worship music, the audience, or this is an open door for God to speak through the art and kind of individually to each person. And he himself says about himself, everything else goes away, and I tend to lose myself in the moment of worship. There's a very spiritual connection when I pick up the brush and on a blank canvas. So this is kind of showing God uses art in these ways to cultivate a stronger and deeper relationship with him, whether you are doing art or viewing it. These are some more elements of how art can improve emotional stability. And if art is useful at boosting emotions, of course it will be useful at boosting test scores. So impact on my life. So for a long time, I knew I wanted to have a career in art, but I kind of thought it was oh, it's a fun hobby I can make money off of. I'll have a great life. So, but after this project, I actually have a more love and passion for art now, because I realized that it's not just this fun thing I can use to procrastinate, but it's actually a tool that can use to heal. And I want to be an art teacher, so I can actually be kind of help have a safe area for children to just relax and get better emotions. I hope that makes sense. But art is great. Yay. So this is a quote I kind of we had to change ourselves if we want to change the world. So this is kind of this is what I've been thinking. I need to change myself if I want to change the world, and that's kind of what I got from this project. So with the help of my mentor, Mrs. Townsend, I learned it's super important to invite God into everything you do. To be honest, this senior project at first was kind of another assignment that I'll complete, I'll get a good grade, I'll go to college, and I'll have a good life. But in one of our meetings, she told me, because it was a required question, how do I invite God into this project? And she said that just whenever you're researching, writing the paper, just invite God into it. And that really stood out to me because I haven't been doing that. And to be honest, in the rush of everything, I still haven't done it. So I hope that in my future assignments, especially in college and in life, I'll invite God into what I'm learning about. What can you guys do? This is the fun part. So nothing can be spread without awareness. these schools, they're run by professionals who care about what they're doing, hopefully, and they won't hear a good idea and not use it. So that's why it's up to us. It's up, to people who are passionate about this to tell them to reach out to the government, to reach out to the head of schools and just suggest this, like say art is beneficial. What should we do about it? And I should be doing this too. I haven't done much, so I will hope to do this more, especially when I start working in schools. And as I said earlier, you can't change the world unless you change yourself. So in order to encourage art, you need to embrace it. So please do something creative, go out and paint, make a mess, and just have fun. Thank you guys for coming.
We'll take questions. Grace, don't forget to repeat the question.
Yes.
And then answer it. Grace, I have a question from Mr. Sheehan.
Oh, no. No.
If art class is so helpful in helping children process their emotions, question is, how do you think we can improve art instruction and art training for K-12 art teachers?
To be honest, I am not sure. I can get back to more on this, but I think it's important to a lot of what art therapists use is like painting, stuff that's not so restricted. Like drawing is very like, it's not as flowy. It won't let you, like, it's more restricted. So I personally feel I will research more on this. If we allow for more like tactile things like clay and painting, it'll allow more like relief to the students if that's what they're looking for, the schools. Mrs. Wright?
We have seen, especially in public schools, where they're taking money away from some of these programs. But what are some ideas that you might have for what we can do outside of the schools to promote it, or to actually have art classes outside of schools that are accessible to all children?
I am not sure. I personally think, like, I know a lot of homeless shelters. I'm not sure about Providence Rescue Mission, but I know that there's organizations that allow for anyone, like the homeless, or that even like after school programs that help with homework. There's times for there's free times for children in that too. If we start doing that instead of like after school homework classes, we could do after school art classes, or just or just maybe allow more creativity in other areas, like even in like English class. I'm getting back to you, Mr. Sheehan. You can like allow for more art to be in it, I guess, like more creative outlets for people. Like Mrs. Twitchell has us do posters and stuff, so maybe things like that. Jacob.
Great job, Grace.
Thank you.
Just a question, do you think that this art therapy is most useful in kids, or can be applied to older people as well?
Actually, I am not quite sure about the age, but originally for my project, I was seeing if art therapy was better than cognitive behavioral therapy, and it turns out it really depends on who you are. There's no best therapy, and I'm pretty sure it applies to ages. I'm not positive though, but it just really depends on who you are and like if you're good. Like art therapy is great for people who can't express things verbally, but if you're a very verbal person, you shouldn't have a problem with cognitive behavioral therapy, which requires people talking and figure things out verbally. Mr. Skaz?
I have two questions. The first one comes from Lisette Westerland.
Oh.
She says, first of all, Grace, you look great.
Oh, oh, thank you. Thank you.
She
Oh.
says, second, how does art therapy help students who don't enjoy the arts, and how can they benefit from art therapy?
That is an awesome question. I am not sure. I wish I were an expert on this. I'm not. But I feel like, and I'm not saying this is just my opinion. I think God encourages creativity, and we're all creative in some way. So even if even writing's creative. Writing's a creative outlet. Baking's creative. Baking's a creative outlet. So can you repeat her question? Sorry.
Yes. So, how does art therapy impact students who don't like art or the arts, and maybe how do you get them involved?
Yeah. So Yeah, I'm not quite sure. There is creative outlets, so even if you're not an artistic person, will still have other creative outlets. And as of now, you're not required to take art classes. So, you're only required to take a certain amount. So even if you only take your required amount, and you can still get creative in other areas, like writing's creative. Even math can be creative. Because creativity is defined as like using your ideas and creating your ideas, and creating your own ideas. So any way you can do that in math, writing, baking, even and art, of course, you can do that. There's creative outlets everywhere.
Second question. First, I feel like you were playing to your audience with most of the math department here.
Yes. Yeah.
My question is, you've been here for a long time at BCA, 13 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What tangible positive impact have you seen the art program have here at BCA?
I think our art program has got to be one of the best. Like Mrs. Townsend and Mrs. Ekholm, and even last year we had ceramics. We had an option for ceramics. We have senior studio here at BCA, so that is really open. And I know both of our art teachers are really flexible with what the students want to do. And I know Mrs. Tremblay-Reilly, she has done a great job with the theater department. I never thought I would be in the main cast, but in a small school, we're in the main cast, and there's so much more for room for dancing with such a small school. There's room for individual teaching, and that means people could get more involved in the theaters, and there's so many opportunities. We have 2 plays a year. It's awesome what we have here. Mrs. Tuchel.
So I wish that I had kept some of your math papers from when you were in 4th grade.
Thank you.
Honestly, Grace, I love the topic that you chose because you would draw all over your math papers while you were doing your math, but I knew that you needed that to get through a topic that you didn't necessarily love. And to see you as a senior now and choose a topic like this is powerful and important, and I really love that. Another comment I want to make is that the story that you used about the little girl that Mr. Klassen had shared with you was really powerful, but then when you got to personally yourself experience this when you did the art class with Mrs. Ekholm, I know that it surprised you with the fact that the students had all chosen angry or sad or something like that as their result at the end of the art project, but how did that make you feel? Were you excited to see that what Mr. Klassen had actually explained to you come out in a tangible way in front of you? How did that make you feel to see that? I don't know if I've asked the question.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. I was when none of the children circled happy at the end, I was super disappointed. I'm did I do something wrong? Will I have to rewrite everything? But after I talked with Mr. Klassen, this was actually, I realized this as I was writing my research paper, because he had already told me about peer pressure a couple months before. And then I realized wait, this isn't an example of emotions, this is an example of communication. So at that point, I was really happy. I'm wow, I can use this. This is so cool. So it wasn't until later that I found that out, which is cool.
Do you see, I didn't realize that you kind of moved into becoming an art teacher, which I absolutely love. Can you see yourself using that same technique in your classroom with your students?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have more of a passion for art now, and I'm definitely going to use what I learned through my project for my students.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Jonah.
So the experiment, or not an experiment, but the way of therapy with the colors and the shapes and stuff that you were talking about for the 4-year-old girl, is there a difference with color there? Does red mean you're feeling angry about something, or blue mean you're feeling sad? I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on the person. I've researched a little bit of this, and I'm not quite sure myself, because there's a difference between art therapy and just having fun art. Usually warm colors are associated with there in art there's warm colors, which is red, yellow, orange, and there's cool colors like purple, blue, and things like that. And usually it really depends on the individual. Usually the warmer colors associated with like passion, like Mrs. Tremblay-Reilly actually once told me it was associated with hunger too, like the warmer colors. And the cool colors are more like calm, but it can also represent sadness. So it really depends on who you are. And I'm not sure if there's like an exact thing with art therapy, like about colors and stuff, but it really depends on the person, but it can be associated with emotions. Angel?
So I know you're sort of focusing on art therapy, but what do you, so when people pursue art, like go to an art college or have art as a profession, what do you suggest, like just as an opinion, what do you suggest they do when it feels like the art is getting stressful or they're stuck, when it becomes not fun?
I promise you I will get back to you on this because I want to give you a good answer. But I feel like just the only thing I know at the top of my head right now is more looser art is calming, like paint. It depends on who you are too. Paint, clay, anything tactile that's not too restrictive is really good. But to be honest, I'm not sure. I guess not to just let it happen too, not to overthink. But I'm not sure. I will get back to you on that.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.